following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. We are back talking baseball in the zone. I'm Ralph Tyko of the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and I have mavens to talk to. No question about that. Today is no exception. A maven, an interesting guy, a Renaissance man, a musician, an author, writes a column on baseball. It's called Throneberry Fields. And I'd like to welcome back Jeff Kallman. How are you?
So far, so good.
Oh, good. I always like hearing that. A signature sign-on by Mr. Kallman. Exciting times. We just finished the playoffs, and we're ready for the World Series. And I'm just going to let you go. First, what do you think of the playoffs? What surprised you? What didn't surprise you?
Well, I'm going to start with this. The 1906 White Sox, the 1914 Braves, the 1954 Giants, the 1960 Pirates, the 1969 Mets, the 1987 Twins, the 1988 Dodgers, the 1990 Reds, the 2003 Marlins, the 2006 Cardinals, the 2019 Nationals. It could happen. They could join that role of the greatest World Series upsets.
Wow. Hey, you know what's nice? I'm a Met fan, as are you, and I have no love lost for the Washington Nationals, but I do care about their fans who have not had a World Series experience since the 30s, for crying out loud. And
specifically year one of the New Deal.
Oh, wow. Long time.
And would you like to know how long it's been since they've won the World Series, ladies and gentlemen?
How long?
The last time a Washington team won a World Series, IBM and Mercedes-Benz were born. Hitler got 5 years for the beer hall putsch. Rhapsody in Blue premiered. J. Edgar Hoover was named director of the FBI. And Gil Hodges was born, and Frank Tinkers to Evers to Chance died. That's how long.
That's a long time. Wow.
Yes. Bugs Bunny was wrong. 95 years is forever.
Then, it's just not the winning. It's the opportunity to be a fan. They lost the original team to the...
Yeah, they got hijacked twice.
Right. To the Twins, to Minnesota, and then the
second
expansion
Senators
team that they were given, which was a joke. Why they didn't get to keep their team, and Minnesota get the expansion team, but that was all part of the deal of the sale. But to add insult to injury, they're just getting attached to a new team, and it's just getting good, and they hire Ted Williams to manage it, and you get a little bit of excitement, and then they move to Texas, breaking the hearts of the same people, many of them, who had their hearts broken the first time.
And that's the thing. Other teams that left cities, at least those cities still had teams. Boston, that was pretty much the hub of Red Sox nation, so comparatively, who needed the Braves? Philadelphia, they could lose the Athletics, and they still had the Phillies, even if that's sort of like having to say, we lost General Motors, but at least we still have a horse carriage business to be proud of. New York, as heartbreaking as it was to lose the Dodgers and the Giants, they still had the Yankees. St. Louis is so much the hub of...
There was nothing to replace the Giants and the Dodgers. The Yankees' attendance didn't rise.
The Yankees attendance didn't rise, but at least the Yankees didn't leave town. And forget the circumstances for the time being. There were still the Yankees. St. Louis was so much the hub of Cardinal country that the Browns, as decrepit as they were, couldn't pay people to go to games. So you're talking about cities that still had baseball teams, whatever the details around it. Washington had a team stolen twice, more or less, and they had to wait 33 more years for the major leagues to return to Washington.
Right, and at that they were getting someone else's team, if you think about it. And
well, Los Angeles got someone else's team. Milwaukee got someone else's team. Kansas City got someone else's team. Baltimore got someone else's team. So yeah, that's not the first time that happened. And in all fairness, Montreal is a lovely city, but the Expos were saddled with one of the most hideous stadiums, I refuse to call it a ballpark, in Major League history.
Well, all that being true, when you're talking to a 9-year-old kid, that's not going to be consolation.
Oh, of course not.
And I think baseball has an obligation to the young fans that they try to bring along for their future, not to screw them. I was 11 when the Giants moved from New York to San Francisco.
I was a little too young to be screwed by that. I had the Mets from age 6.
You're very lucky. I had to wait 5 years to get a National League team to replace the Giants and the Dodgers.
For which you can thank Robert Moses and the mouse-like politicians he had wrapped around his fat pinky.
Yeah. There's many schools of thought about that, but the true
all of those schools should have been slammed shut
anyway.
Well, the Giants had a unique problem, and this is one thing I often speak about when the subject of Moses comes up. Moses was so bent on jamming what eventually became Shea Stadium down the Dodgers' throat, and he was ignorant of the fact that the Giants needed a new ballpark and couldn't afford to build one themselves, but they didn't have the borough identification that the Dodgers did, and why didn't Moses even think about inviting the Giants to cast their eyes on Flushing Meadows? They could have gutted it out in the Polo Grounds for 5 more years while Shea Stadium got built. But that never crossed Moses' mind at all.
Very interesting, and it's something Stoneham would have gone for.
You remember the quote from Walter O'Malley.
If we play in calling a team in Queens, New York, so that wouldn't have been.
Well, that's it. The Giants didn't identify with a particular borough, and neither did the Yankees. You may remember seeing Walter O'Malley's quote: "If we play in Queens, we're not the Brooklyn Dodgers anymore."
Yeah, but he wanted to leave. I'll tell you what, he could have made that work. No. He was being courted by Los Angeles.
No. Let's have the record straight once and for all, and without saying that Walter O'Malley is some kind of a saint, because he wasn't. But let's have the record straight once and for all. What Walter O'Malley wanted was to build what would have been the world's first retractable roof stadium on a plot in Brooklyn above the Long Island Railroad terminus, and Robert Moses blocked him from buying the last 2 parcels he needed to build that ballpark, the idea being that because the neighborhood around Ebbets Field had grown and closed up around the ballpark so much there was no place to park, and a lot of the Dodger fans moving out to Long Island would have no place to go driving into Brooklyn, but above the Long Island Railroad, problem solved. And Moses blocked that.
What was his excuse for blocking it?
He probably gave the usual political excuses, most of which came under the rubric of that Robert Moses had made it plain that as long as he ran the building and planning in New York City and state, no one would ever again build a privately designed, privately constructed, privately owned sports facility as long as he had anything to say about it.
Wow. I wonder how that got into his head, why he wanted that built in.
Well, you have to remember at the time that Moses was building suburbia, all of his major name projects went right out to Long Island and upstate into Westchester, Putnam, and Rockland counties. Moses was looking out of the city and toward the suburbs. And if it meant giving a big FU to the Dodgers, so be it.
Flushing Meadows would have been perfect for everybody, in other words.
At least for the Giants. Because, like I said, the Giants didn't have the borough identification, and the Dodgers did.
Right. Very good
and basically, eventually Shea Stadium did get built. But Moses was looking at two tags. One, he wanted something in his Flushing Meadows Park in the worst way possible. And two, he basically wanted to stick it to Walter O'Malley. And like I said, O'Malley is no saint, but in this instance, it was Walter O'Malley who got done wrong by Robert Moses, who did not like the idea of people building their own sports facilities in his New York.
How did Walter O'Malley and Robert Moses come to be at odds?
It was probably a natural thing. O'Malley and Moses were almost bound to be at loggerheads because O'Malley was a private entrepreneur and Robert Moses was purely public. And Robert Moses had an animus, for whatever reason, against people building their own sports facilities and entertainment facilities. It was more or less that simple. Robert Moses thought of himself as the great, his biography was called this, the power broker. That's how Robert Moses saw himself in New York. And any threat to that, Robert Moses was going to do what he could to put it down. And Walter O'Malley was a threat to that. Walter O'Malley threatened, for whatever reason, his great suburban expansion plan.
Okay.
By having the audacity to want to keep the Dodgers in Brooklyn and build a brand new ballpark with a forward-looking retractable roof over the Long Island Railroad.
I wonder how that would have gone over.
You mean had it actually been allowed to come to pass? We'll never know.
Yeah.
We never will know, unfortunately. But back to Washington, you're talking about a city that hasn't seen a World Series triumph since the Coolidge administration, and had two teams stolen from them, and now all these seasons that the Nationals have built up an organization and a pennant competitive team, and come up short several times. Now they're going to the World Series. Washington finally has a reason to be
excited for them. Mets rivalry notwithstanding.
Look at it this way. It's about time we had something to think about out of Washington other than the nation's largest organized crime family.
Oh my God, this is. I almost hate for my guest's sake to bring politics up, but I'm glad you did.
We're talking about Washington because and talking about Washington without politics is kind of like talking about New York without skyscrapers.
Right, exactly. Or the Southern District Court in New York. You can't talk about New York without talking about the DA coming after Giuliani. I think that's funny. That's ironically funny. This guy by now
it may be like shooting a fish in a barrel.
Right, and I don't know if he could claim that he's just losing it, but his interview with
you can't claim to lose what you've already lost. that's it's not losing, it's lost. It's not present tense, it's past tense. Rudy Giuliani has become the crazy ant in the attic of American law.
Right. And Trump thinks he could just dump this guy, and there'll be.
You had the first two words of that sentence wrong.
Trump never thinks.
Trump thinks. Bingo. You got the idea.
Okay, I got that. It's.
But that's enough about the real. That's enough about the Real House Husbands of Washington.
All right. Well, just let me end on this. That because I started the sentence, Giuliani would, if he were screwed by Trump, and he will be, there's no question about it, he'll be thrown under the bus. And can you imagine the squealing he will do and everything that he knows that went on when he finally turns to save his own ass? Or better yet, imagine him
that's the problem.
Giuliani
That's the problem.
To jail.
That's the problem. Trump would, if Trump throws Giuliani under the bus, Giuliani will try to throw the bus at Trump. Except that by now, Giuliani's credibility has been so obliterated that when he does start squealing, he's liable not to have that much of an audience, unfortunately. And it'll take other people.
They both have no credibility. And
the traffic crowd around the 18-wheeler accident isn't the same thing as having an attentive audience.
Right. Well, as I say, maybe not they'll be attentive on this. This will bring out the looky-loos to see what's going on. This is going to be, and they'll
but the looky-loos normally don't want the actuality getting in the way of some juicy blood, guts, and gore.
That's true.
They'll be more interested in watching these two guys kill each other than in figuring out what was really going on.
Well, we know what was going on. They told us in plain English. She stood there and said on the White House lawn, he said, "I made the call." He said, and they released the transcript. And the transcript said that he was exchanging allocated funds, holding it over Ukraine's head, Congress's funds.
Oh, about that we know. I'm also talking about everything else that Giuliani was privy to even before that.
Oh, could well imagine. And what
you need
Trump
a good
is
imagination.
privy to about Giuliani. It's
back and forth.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but it will never replace the World Series. And what with Washington being in the World Series, tell me what's going to happen.
Well, we're talking about two teams that are pretty closely matched. The Astros, they have a triumvirate of starting pitching talent. They have Garrett Cole. They have future Hall of Famer Justin Verlander. They have Zach Greinke. The Nationals have
a double play combination.
Let me finish. The Nationals have a pitching triumvirate plus one. They have Max Scherzer. They have Steven Strasburg. They have Patrick Corbin. And they also have a sleeper named Anibal Sanchez who thought about retiring before this year. Instead, he signed with the Nationals. And then come the National League Championship Series, he damn near no-hits the Cardinals. The day before, Max the Knife almost damn near no-hits the Cardinals. So Sanchez is now a sleeper.
It reminds me of Ray Washburn with the Giants, with the Cardinals. And the Giants exchanged no-hitters within 24 hours.
Yeah,
Cardinals years ago. Wow.
Now with Scherzer,
we are talking years ago. We're talking 50 years ago. When you were a kid, did you ever go to any of your relatives' 50th anniversary parties? Golden Age this, Golden Age that. Do you remember how you felt about those old geezers? 50 years, memories together, this and that. I felt
like I wanted to ask them about the last time they saw a Washington World Series, which is our topic right now.
Okay.
When you've got Scherzer, now the Nationals have Scherzer, Strasburg, Corbin, and Sanchez now. Sanchez is a sort of secret weapon because the way that the rotations look to be set up, it looks like Game 4, the Astros will have to go to a bullpen game, but the Nationals, who don't have as good a bullpen as the Astros, they've got Sanchez to go. So there may be an unexpected balance there. Now, if the Nationals did not have a bullpen as good as the Astros, I sort of understated it in regular season terms because in the regular season, their bullpen was mostly a disaster. Then after a couple of disasters in the division series, they pruned the pen. Now it's down to Sean Doolittle, Daniel Hudson, a rookie named Tanner Rainey with a live fastball and a wicked slider, and he pitched his way into the setup role. And you've got Grandpa Fernando Rodney, who may be thought of now as just matchup pitching, but he can still give you an extra inning here and there. So those are the four mainstays in the Nationals' pen. And with their starters mostly effective and running long, the Nationals' bullpen is not as in bad shape as people would have feared even a month and a half ago. I'm guessing I'm guessing they've hidden Hunter Strickland and Wander Suero away somewhere with orders that they be shot on sight if they poke their noses out of their holes. Now, the Astros have a good bullpen, excuse me, and they have a mostly shut-down closer, Roberto Osuna, but Osuna's armor got blown open in the top of the ninth in Game 6 of the League Championship Series. He needed every foot of Jose Altuve's series-winning two-run homer to put that armor back together again. So the Astros are solid, they're tough, but they're not invulnerable.
Okay.
If you compare the two teams up to this point in the postseason, the Nationals as a team in their division series hit .230. In the League Championship Series, they hit .274. The Astros in their division series hit .242. In their League Championship Series, they only hit .179. The Nationals pitching improved from the division series to the League Championship Series, and so did the Astros. But the Nationals in the National League Championship Series, their team pitching was 1.25 ERA and a 0.64 walks and hits per inning pitched rate. The Astros in their League Championship Series, 2.51 ERA, 1.12 WHIP.
Okay.
So these teams are closer to being
notwithstanding,
matched than
these
people
are
think.
numbers, small numbers. In other words, 2 or 3 games for the pitchers, but in short sets in the postseason, those small numbers are a lot bigger than people think.
Okay. Now let's take them around the field. Anthony Rendon of the Nationals and Alex Bregman of the Astros are as close to a third base match as you can get. Bregman has a slight edge. Ryan Zimmerman is the old man for the Nats at first base. He's not as good on paper as Yuli Gurriel, but Gurriel's bat went to sleep for most of the postseason until that 3-run homer in Game 6. And he had a better regular season, so the Astros have a slight advantage. Howie Kendrick has jaw-dropping drama flair, and he's a very productive elder spare part, but he's no Jose Altuve at second base. There's the Astros' advantage. Michael Brantley for the Astros, left field, made a decibel-busting play in Game 6 that was as classic as you could get. But at the plate, he's no Juan Soto. Nats have the advantage there. Victor Roble has a promising future in center field for the Nationals if he stays healthy, but he's no George Springer. Advantage Astros. Adam Eaton's harmless in right field. The Nats would actually have been better off this year with a $330 million guy he replaced. And even with that, he does hit slightly better than Josh Reddick of the Astros, but in right field, Reddick is a little more adept with the glove, so there's no advantage to either side there.
Yeah, Reddick has a hell of an arm.
He's got a great arm, he's got range, but he doesn't hit. So right there, they're kind of balanced. Shortstop, Trey Turner and Carlos Correa. Correa had 2 homers in the championship series, didn't really hit much of anything else. Turner hit more consistently for the Nationals, and when he's on the bases, he's a lot more dangerous. So the Nationals have a small advantage there. And I've already run down the pitching. So this is not going to be a short series. I'm thinking 6 games minimum, and it might go the distance.
Very evenly matched, and there's a case to be made that these are the first and second best teams, or second and first best teams in baseball.
at least since late May.
Mm-hmm.
Starting on May 24th and including today, the Nationals are 82-40. There's only one team in baseball knocking on their door from that point forward, including today, and they were 81-41, and that's the Astros.
Wow. I'm getting excited about watching ball. What is it, Tuesday night?
Tomorrow night in Houston.
Oh,
and it's going to be Garrett Cole for the Astros and Max Scherzer for the Nationals.
One other thing, when we're talking about Washington, you notice that Bryce Harper's name never comes up. It's like he had never been there. He's not missed. Wow.
I hate to break it to folks, but they actually missed him a little more than they think.
Think so? I guess you do. You want to say it.
I know so.
Okay.
I know so. Bryce Harper, for whatever reasons, is all kinds of a magnet in Washington and beyond Washington. And they all like to harp on how much better off they are without Harper, all the insults and all the Twitter pating and all that garbage. And now I'm going to make some reminders to folks. Harper's not the one who kept the Nationals from going past division series in the past. He's not the one who let the Cardinals hang 4 runs on the board in the top of the ninth in Game 5 of the 2012 division series. He's not the one who wild pitched Joe Panik home with Pablo Sandoval at the plate to break a 2-all tie in Game 5 of the 2014 division series. He's not the one who let the Dodgers hang up a 4 spot in the top of the 7th of Game 5 in the 2016 division series. And he's not the one who puked the Nationals bed in the 5th inning of Game 5 in the 2017 set when Max Scherzer was sent out to be in relief despite being gassed, gave up a 2-run double, and then watched with everybody else when their catcher committed a run-scoring pass ball and a throwing error on the same play, then committed catcher's interference to load the bases before the 4th run scored on a bases-loaded hit batsman.
Bad day for the tools of ignorance.
Ignorant day for the tools of ignorance, some people said. Now, let's look at Harper against the guy who replaced him in right field. Adam Eaton. Nice guy seemingly, good ball player, wouldn't hurt the proverbial fly. But now, this season, Harper's OPS 882, Eaton 792. Harper's on base percentage 372, Eaton 365. Right then and there, Bryce Harper would have been more valuable to the Nationals than Adam Eaton. Now let's get a little more advanced.
Yeah, but we're talking bang for the buck.
I am coming to bang for the buck. I'm coming to the high leverage situations. The moments that most mean runs on the scoreboard and or chances to take leads and even win with these guys at the plate. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Bryce Harper's high leverage slash line. 307 batting average, 370 on base percentage, 667 slugging percentage, and a 1.037 OPS. Adam Eaton's high leverage hitting. 236 batting average, 305 on base percentage, 333 slugging percentage, 638 OPS.
Wow. Quite a difference.
That's where it was coming down to the nitty-gritty.
Yeah.
And now, if you talk... What?
It's a team game, though,
Yeah, it's a team game, and one guy is not going to make the difference over another guy. But if you're talking about a position player, a particular position player, a right fielder, and you look closely at Bryce Harper and Adam Eaton in 2019, very much so the Nationals would have been better off with Bryce Harper by a large margin.
When I say bang for the buck, I'm talking about what kind of contract would have it taken to sign Bryce Harper, and where would that money have come from? Who would have had to go?
Well, I can answer that question. The Nationals owners they're not even close to going broke. The Lerners are the wealthiest owners in baseball, actually. Ted Lerner is recorded as being worth $4.9 billion. The Phillies owner was only the third wealthiest owner. And he had no problem showing Harper the real market value and not lowballing him. This is what some people have forgotten. The Nationals offered Harper 10 years and $300 million, with $100 million of it to be deferred. That would have enabled Harper to collect checks till he was 5 years short of Social Security age. But the part that everybody misses, deferred money decreases the actual value because it's a set figure that does not adjust for inflation. Basically, and with the best intentions, the Nationals offered Harper below his actual market value. The Phillies offered him 13 years and $330 million and didn't defer it. What?
You take away the tax ramifications, and those numbers change. In other words,
even with the tax ramifications, that deferred $100 million is not going to adjust for inflation, and it's actually going to reduce the value of the deal. The Phillies didn't go there. The Phillies offered him 13 years, $330 million, and not a penny of it deferred. So he will get the actual value of that money over the 13 years of that deal. That was the difference.
Okay.
That's probably why the knowledgeable Nationals fan is now hoping and praying that the Lerners do not make the same mistake with Anthony Rendon and look to do right by him as he walks into his first free agency period. And likewise, that they were ready to do right by Steven Strasburg and convince him not to opt out of his deal, as he can after the World Series.
Well, there's more to it, unfortunately, than just what you get on the field. It's how many seats you sit in those bleachers. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, Harper put the panties in the seats, even if half of them went out there to razz him. He was
right. Oh, did I lose you?
So I'm still here. But I'm here.
Oh, you were cutting out there. How about Rendon? Can he put fannies in the seats?
He can.
Okay.
He can put fannies in the seats.
A big consideration.
Right. I'll tell you something. Right now, at least 2/3, if not more, of the individual Nationals can put people in the seats. This year's Nationals turned out to be one of the most fun teams in baseball. And it was contagious not only around their clubhouse, but in the ballpark.
Yeah.
It's not for nothing that a veteran who hails from Venezuela came to the Nationals in a late spring deal and started getting not only his club, but everybody in the ballpark to start singing the Baby Shark song and wearing Baby Shark headdresses and headgear to go along with them.
Yes. It doesn't hurt when you have a fun year going along with a winning team.
Well, it turns out that the real trick to that for the Nationals was, on May 23rd, they finished that day at 19-31. It was presumed that their manager's execution papers had been signed and notarized, and they decided the next day, our ambition is to go 1-0. They weren't going to worry about anything else except for that day's game, and we're going to start having some fun. And a couple of hiccups out of that shoot, that's just did the rest of the way.
Didn't they have a dugout fight early in the season too? Strasburg might have been involved in that. Well, that might have been last year with.
The only dugout fight they had was in 2015 after they were knocked out of the race, when then relief pitcher Jonathan Papelbon decided the way to remind a teammate about how to run up the first baseline was to try to choke him in the dugout, with their manager completely oblivious to it until one of his coaches told him what happened. And the idiot still sent Papelbon out to pitch to the ninth, where the Phillies gave him his comeuppance.
That was way back in 2015. I'm telling you, time flies. No question about that.
It surely does.
I didn't realize it.
The only thing happening in the Nationals dugout this year has been wild dancing after home runs and other big hits and moments. They've been busting moves that Solskjaer never thought of.
Hey, Jeff, do you mind if I ask you about what you think of the upcoming managerial changes being made and who go where?
At this moment, right now, Joe Girardi got a call back from the Phillies. So the Phillies are quite hot on his trail. The Mets have a bunch of candidates they're considering, including Girardi. And Joe Madden's gone to the Angels, back where he came from.
There was some rumor that Girardi was going to Philadelphia, which I don't think was a good fit.
I just said that he got a second call back from the Phillies.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I'm wondering why he didn't get to go to the Cubs, or he hasn't ever been. To my knowledge, he's still on the Cubs list of candidates. I don't know where it'll go from this point after we sign off the air, but he is on their list. Okay, may I ask you about what you think, or who you think is going to manage the Mets, and we can close it with that.
Right now, it's very hard to say.
By the way, before I go any further, I just want to tell you that you were incredibly succinct and informative today. This really put a lot. You told me a lot, or reminded me a lot about Robert Moses and the situation, and it's a good show. I'm really enjoying your company on a weekly basis.
Those who want to know about that situation can read two excellent books. One is Michael Shapiro's The Last Good Season, which is about the Dodgers' final pennant race in Brooklyn and all the backstories around the ballpark issue. And the other is Neil Sullivan's The Dodgers Move West, which goes strictly into the ballpark issues and the politics and the move. Those are the two best places to get the full story. Put them together, and you're closer.
When we have some time next few weeks, I'd like to talk about how the Giants came into all of this.
I can run that down for you in a couple of sentences.
All right.
Stoneham was already thinking about moving, and his first target was Minneapolis because he had the rights there. He had the Minneapolis Millers were the Giants' AAA team. It was when O'Malley finally realized he's not going to get to build a new ballpark in Brooklyn and started looking out to Los Angeles that he realized the only thing he would have been lacking was competition, so he suggested to Stoneham, knowing that Stoneham couldn't afford to stay in New York, to come out to California with him and continue the rivalry out there.
Okay, and who came to who? O'Malley came to Stoneham. Am I correct?
I think O'Malley approached Stoneham when it became finally, no questions asked, crystal clear that he wasn't going to be able to stay in Brooklyn and that he was going to get himself something in Los Angeles. To go to Los Angeles without another team would have been foolish, and he knew that Stoneham couldn't afford to build himself a new ballpark in New York or otherwise, and instead of moving to Minneapolis, he thought it would make more sense in terms of baseball business and baseball the game to continue the Dodger-Giant rivalry in California.
Well, that was a must because a National League team couldn't afford to go out to the West Coast for just one stop.
To play one team. And at the time, nobody knew that the leagues were going to expand and include California.
Yeah, incredibly that they could have expanded with the Continental League, and it would have been nice to have kept those two teams.
There's a great book about the Continental League that I think everybody should read. It is called, if I remember correctly, I don't have my copy in front of me, but it was called Bottom of the Ninth, Branch Rickey, Casey Stengel, and the Daring Scheme to Save Baseball from Itself. It was written by the same Michael Shapiro.
Wow. a prolific guy. As you are a prolific podcaster, sir, we've come to the end of another episode of Talkin' Baseball in the Zone. Jeff Kallman, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, everybody, for listening. Could you do us both a favor if you're out there and you enjoy our offerings or the offerings on any of our programming? Would you box up some lightly used or new children's books and take them over to the Head Start program? These kids need to be challenged. They need to learn. They need to read. They need to become school ready. They need to develop a passion. There's a billion reasons why kids need books, and the Head Start program helps a lot of kids who are in need. So do me a favor. I'll feel good. Thank you. Thank you again, Jeff Kallman, and thank you, everybody, for listening. We're gone. Over and out. The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.